Hey guys, it's Ed here. Today I'll be giving you guys an in-depth analysis of the CN tier list, updated to Springfield patch, to figure out why certain characters are rated higher or lower than expected. I personally feel that prydwen's tier list isn't that accurate and would rather follow data provided by actual players who have been playing the game for a year. Those tier lists are based on what's good now rather than what's good in the future. If you look at CN tier list, you'll know what units are more future-proof than others. I'm not going to do the clickbait thing where they put a tier list at the end, so here's it at the start. If you're here just for a list, congrats, you've gotten all you need. If you want to hear the explanations on why certain characters are there, keep watching. Note that all purple rarity dolls are assumed to be segmented 6, standard elite banner dolls are assumed to be around S3, and limited banner characters are S0, R0. No dupes, no signature weapon. The community names dupes with V instead of S, so I will change my script in the future accordingly so that there'll be no confusion anymore. And keep in mind that tier lists are a single guy's opinions on things, and I feel like it's better to seek out multiple tier lists and then form your own opinion on which unit is good or bad. CN tier list specifically because you want to know what units are more future-proof. So let's start off tier 4 with her, Replay. Replay is a decent early on character that has a unique debuff, and her final golden common key is very useful and strong. However, she falls off late game. I suggest you just maxing her to get the golden common key and then just move on. Coffin dropped tiers mainly because of Springfield's release. If you guys aren't aware, most auto rifles in the game has a passive that provides damage buff when the user is at full health. Coffin being able to heal at the end of it makes keeping that buff easier. But with Springfield's release, the game has enough rifles that don't have the passive anymore, freeing up auto rifle users from that requirement. Also, she's a direct replacement for Coffin, therefore she is dropped to tier 4. Let's move on to tier 3 where the units are already usable, just overshadowed. Use them if you have no alternatives. Starting off with Papasha and Mosin. Both of them have the same issue of low damage output. Papasha is the curse of being a free character and a physical character, while Mosin actually gets much better when you have her segment 4, which makes her usable. Yurit kinda has the same damage issue, but at least she's a self-buffing character, which means her advantage is that she doesn't really need support. She can be put into any team as like a flex slot. Dash remains at tier 3 because her usage has not really changed that much. ICC sub DPS character, but ice teams don't really need her to be functioning. She provides an insane amount of CC though, but she just stops them from moving but not attacking. And I think she is skippable at the end, but if you really want to invest, go ahead. Mactive remains at tier 3 for the same reason as Dash. Does not provide any CC, but corrosion and AoE related debuffs for Klukai. Debuffs are very strong, but like Klukai is already super strong on her own, so if you really wanna invest into corrosion teams, I think you should just skip her. Let's move on to tier 2 where characters are starting to get good and very worth the investment. Jiang Yu is at tier 2 because of her RNG heavy DPS cycle at S0R0. She has a chance, 50% remember correctly, to consume too much gauge that breaks her cycle instantly. You need more dupes for her to cycle her abilities easily, and that's a drawback. So if you really like her, make sure to invest more into her so that she can actually deal stable DPS. Pericha stays at tier 2 because of her decent damage output and AoE passive to synergize with Klukai teams. And being free from the Dom gacha makes her very easy to get more dupes off and increase the strength. And build her if you're trying to get Klukai. It's free unit. Diane is in tier 2 for CN, but I feel like she should be tier 1 with what she does. Frontliners face the issue of being too mobile and diving headfirst into enemies before supports can catch up for a quick death. But for Diane, her mechanics of countering before an enemy hits her makes her so much tankier. She also brings good utility. Think of her like a Swiss Army knife frontliner. Very good character, but held back by being a physical DPS. On the other hand, Zhao Hui is a Hydro frontliner in Tier 2 and faces the exact issues Diane has managed to avoid. And she's very reliant on owning a signature weapon. Therefore, I think she's mid, feels like bait character if you don't plan to pull a signature weapon. Racy remains at Tier 2 after being overshadowed by Ksenia. Does similar things to her, but without the nuke. I mean, just use Ksenia, she's free, and then she deals even more damage than her if you had her at segment 6, unless you further invest into Racy, of course, and then this comparison is obviously assuming Racy is at 0. Once she gets a dupe, she becomes stronger than Ksenia, but you have to use pulls for it. Cheetah is also unable to escape the terror of Ksenia, but at least she has the gimmicks of random buffs, which makes her a decent alternative for free-to-play Tololo teams. At least she's free, right? Lena, or UMP9, is placed at Tier 2, but I would say she's Tier 1.5 at least. Lightning CC Queen 2 tiers above other CC units like Dash because of how her CC works. Her CC works by stopping both enemy movements and prevents enemies from attacking, making a very good pseudo-sustain unit. You don't need to heal if they don't hit you. Sabrina, after her CM buffs, make her very potent and synergistic Hydro Vanguard character. Free dupes from boss mode makes her investing cheap, and goes hand in hand in Tololo to dominate the meta. Very good free character and part of the arguably strongest team comp in CN right now. Let's start off with Tier 1, where all the units here are extremely good and worth the investment. Starting off with Tololo. With her buffs in the CN version and Springfield release, she has rocketed straight into Tier 1. Her buffs received lets her get to max stat on turn 1 and guarantees that her rotation does not break anymore, unlike pre-buff. Basically, she can get an extra turn every turn, and Springfield's overheal keeps her weapon active consistently. Her team comp also has Sabrina, which recently got buffed too, and is a free character, making the team super cheap to build. Although, she really needs a power spike at segment 3 for her to be a Tier 1 contender, but since she's a standard unit, she's more obtainable. Her signature also can be obtained for free, quote unquote, via the exchange shop. If you're planning to pull Springfield, definitely invest in her. Even if you aren't, she still works fine with Sabrina and Kofi. Wawa remains at Tier 1 since there isn't much changes to her and her team comp's performance. At S0R0, still pretty crazy, and we're kinda missing the 4th slot on the Ice team, so she has more room to grow. Not needing dupes or signature weapons makes her a great free-to-play option. Shakri moves back to Tier 1, even though she's kinda held back by the hybrid DPS typing. She doesn't receive any changes other than being a very potent non-5-star DPS character. She's a purple rarity character in the same league as limited characters, and that says a lot. So invest in her if you have her dupes, especially at the final segments. Belka is in Tier 1 for good reason, lightning DPS with one-shot potential. Technically has the highest damage output in the entire game, nothing much to see here, just a very good DPS at S0R0 with a very interesting gimmick. Suomi remains at Tier 1, nothing much has changed, and having her at S1 makes her Hypo Generalist, freeing up a healer slot for someone else. Lots of buffs, so she can be used as a pseudo generalist. Still top tier at CN, even stronger at S1, and then room to improve whenever we get a new isolated character. Vector moves up to Tier 1 to join Somi as the fire version of her, plays fire tiles for fire team synergies. Even though she's support, she somehow has very good damage for some reason. Pull her if you want to spec into fire teams, which is currently dominated by insane standard dolls for some reason. And the insane standard doll with Kisnia, which is the second purple rarity doll to be at Tier 1. Extremely good overburn and blazing a support buffer that somehow vomits out amazing damage with her ultimate. At segment 6 of course. Heals too because she somehow can do that too. And for our final Tier 1 unit, we have Andoris. Basically a walking tank that cannot be killed with support capabilities, and has a very interesting gimmick of redirecting damage taken on your allies to her to make them more sustainable. And now we move into tier 0, where it has characters that you shouldn't really skip on and invest as much resources as possible into. First on the list, I think everyone knows who this is. It's Klukai, and she's officially in tier 0 after being a contender for a while. Insane AoE damage and functions at S0. Even in single card target content, her damage output is extremely high, and might be even higher if a more corrosion focused unit released. And the verdict will be, get her, makes most game modes a cakewalk. QJ moves up to tier 0 after being in tier 1 for a while. Changes to a standard banner allows people to target her with dupes, therefore unlocking her full potential. Super versatile unit with the support action stuff on top of having crazy damage output. Just get her, that's the first thing you need to get out of your standard banner selectors, because she can fit in so many teams and do so many things, synergize with so many gimmicks at once. Definitely worth your time and resources. Last but not least, we have Springfield. Releases straight into tier 0. Lots of buffs with insane heals. Has a similar gimmick to Wawa for allies being hit. And somehow she has good DPS too, and will shred any aggressive boss due her gimmick. And single-handedly pull 2 standard characters into tier 1. She's a CN anniversary unit, and Brit is a popular character in Frontline 1, which explains her insane kit. Just get her. Do I really need to say more? And that is all for me for the tier list. I didn't mention some tier 4 characters because they're really not worth mentioning. Other than that, I hope this video gives you a better insight into the meta of the game in the future, so you can plan your pulls more effectively. There's a difference between knowing a unit is good now and knowing if a unit is good 1 year later. If you like my content, feel free to subscribe, and thank you for watching this video.